So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If Naruto Was Lost Prince of the Moon Kingdom, Naruto x Sailor Mercury movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Princess Setsuna Mayu of the planet Pluto, and yes, it is a planet despite what the Earth's astronomers might want people to believe, was absolutely ecstatic. At long last she had pinpointed the location where the ones she had been tasked with watching over. One could be found on the local Earth, and judging by the patterns in the time stream, it looked as if Luna of the Mao would soon be finding her and setting her on her destiny. As for the other. Oh. Well, this will never do. That world is way too dangerous for my prince to be left on. Even if Serenity is destined to be the guardian of the moon, it is the prince who their mother had always suspected would be the one to continue the royal bloodline into the future. Setsuna stated. Drawing one of the keys off of her waist, Setsuna walked over to a truly massive Gothic-looking doorway and inserted the key into the keyhole, twisting it to the unlocked position. Once this was done, she drew the door open and stepped through the massive archway. So long as she had the keys with her, no one else could pass through the gateway. XXX another time and place XXX. Setsuna blinked and looked around at her surroundings. This can't be right. The location that the space-time door had delivered her to looked like Charon Palace, except everything was in a complete state of decay. Nothing in the palace was operational, except for the space-time door itself. And that seemed to be having its power siphoned off by some external force. Fortunately, the door has an infinite reserve of power, drawing directly from what those silly humans in that academy in One Universe's London referred to as the second and fifth true sorceries. Setsuna let out a laugh as she thought of those humans. They only recognize 5 sorceries. Truth is, there are countless true sorceries. Each senshi, the universe over, can draw on at least one of them. Setsuna herself can draw on the second and fifth. The members of the lunar royal family traditionally call upon the first and third, just to name 2 examples. Now, let's see, if this is Pluto and nothing here works well, this is rather awkward. How am I supposed to get to what is probably an alternate version of Earth if I can't activate the matter transporters? Setsuna asked in air. Sure, she can use what that vampiric troll calls the kaleidoscope, but she isn't as good at it as him. She has to have been to a place before to be able to teleport back to it, which makes it virtually useless in this situation. Although she is naturally capable of teleporting herself or something else to any quantum irregularity that exists, whether she has been to it before or not. One of the perks of the other sorcery at her disposal interacting with the second sorcery. Sighing to herself, Setsuna walked over to one of the various windows in the palace. It is a really good thing that the senshi don't need oxygen and won't die due to exposure to a vacuum, or else she'd already be dead. I've never really tried something like this, so I have no idea if I am being stupid or not, but here goes nothing. Time alter CH+L+ as Axel. Setsuna screamed the last bit out. Surprisingly, despite the lack of atmosphere, her voice would have been heard if there had been anyone around to hear her speaking. Boo off. Setsuna groaned. Even though her version of the time alter magic didn't have the same disaster side effects as what happens when that foolish man in the Clock Tower's universe uses it, it still wasn't particularly advisable for her to use anything more than a square axle, unless the situation absolutely demanded it. Fortunately, it wasn't on the same level as Time Stop. Like all other guardians of time, she was absolutely forbidden to use that specific technique, except in the most dire of situations where no other option remained. Propelling herself out of the window at an astonishing 199.1667 miles per second, which only just barely reached the rate of 0.1% light speed, she began her long journey towards what could only be an alternate Earth. XXX 156 days later, XXXXXX Ichiraku Ramen Stand XXXXXX Konohagakure, no Sato XXX. Setsuna was sitting enjoying a nice meal of ramen when it happened. Several explosions erupted in disparate parts of the village simultaneously. Standing from her meal and walking outside of the ramen stand, Setsuna frowned at what she was witnessing. Not only were there massive explosions still going off in various locations, but there were now 3 gigantic orange and black centipedes wreaking havoc throughout the village. Suddenly, an explosion that resembled what would happen if the Schwer Gustav had fired its payload into the middle of the village. Okay, now I am pissed, Setsuna exclaimed and thrust out her hand. In that hand appeared a small wand with a pink heart topped with a blue globe that had 2 antennae off of it in a V shape, and on top of the globe was a golden star-shaped ornament. Pluto planet power. Makeup. In a flash of bright light that seemed to stop time around her, Setsuna was transformed into Sailor Pluto, the guardian of time. Once she has transformed, Sailor Pluto began walking in the direction of the largest explosion. After turning only one corner, she came upon an orange-haired man and watched in horror as he ripped his victim's very soul out of his body. Not wishing to get close enough for that man to do that to her, she pointed the garnet rod at the man and declared, "You are so nailed to the sky." Setsuna watched in satisfaction as the man was ripped off the ground at 25,020 mph, breaking every single bone in his body to break due to experiencing approximately 1800 Gs, all at a single instant. If the lift-off didn't kill the guy, what happened only seconds after he exited the planet's extreme upper atmosphere certainly did. As soon as he reached that altitude, the gravitational pull of the planet reasserted itself on his body with extreme aggression, and he began plummeting towards the planet at 24,606.3 mph, the same speed as the Apollo 16 capsule on re-entry. To say he was nice and toasty when he landed was putting it extremely mildly. XXX outside of Konoha XXX. A voice cried out in extreme agony at the sensation of having one of its bodies atomized. Find her and kill her. Nagato commanded to the other paths of pain. XXX back with Setsuna XXX. The next one of these weirdos she encountered was a rather blocky fellow with 7 studs in an inverted V on his face and 3 long spikes sticking out of his brain. Yeah, that was what it looks like they are doing, and poking through his ears. The man ran up to Setsuna and grabbed her by the throat, which was damn impressive since she was in double axle right now. He then asked the question, do you know where Naruto Uzumaki is? Setsuna frowned and countered, what is your business with my prince? As soon as she had spoken the last word, a large demonic-looking head erupted out of the ground, unzipped its mouth. Yes, unzipping is the right word here, and a large tendril reached out and pulled out something that seemed to be attached to Setsuna's tongue. The head's eyes crinkled in confusion before it released whatever that was it held and disappeared, much to the surprise of the man that was holding her. How are you still alive? The man demanded. I don't know. Why would I be dead though? Setsuna asked. That was the king of hell. Anyone who I ask a question of after grabbing their throat is judged by the king of hell. If he finds them to have answered truthfully, then they live. If they lied or did not answer, then he kills them. The man stated. Ah, well, there's your problem then. Hello, my name is Sailor Pluto. I am the sailor soldier of the afterlife, time, change and revolution. You can go to hell. Dead scream. As she said that, she swung the garnet rod in such a way that a massive blast of purple energy slammed into the man. This energy, unlike how she would normally choose to use it, had absolutely none of its limiters on it at the moment. As soon as the energy hit the man, every single nerve in his body began firing signals, indicating he was in immense pain. This was of course natural because he had just been turned into the very beginning stages of a completely self-contained black hole that has no chance of affecting the outside world. His death was going to be horrifically painful. Usually she left the limiters on, but these guys with the weird swirly eyes were ticking her off immensely. So far she has had to deal with a guy who eats people's souls, which was strictly banned by all planets with a senshi on it, as well as a guy capable of summoning one of her minions. And the guy had the nerve to use said minion on her. I was having such a nice day, Setsuna exclaimed as she walked off in search of her next playmate. XXX. A few minutes later. XXX. Howie. Setsuna exclaimed as she glomped the purple-haired girl. Konan stuttered, not sure quite what to make of this girl. She was under strict orders to kill the girl, but for some reason, how are you blocking my paper manipulation? Manipulated the gravity on the paper so that it would take considerably more chakra than you are capable of generating in order to manipulate it. Setsuna explained. Konan's eyes widened in realization of what this girl was capable of doing. The entire plan relied on the abilities of the Deva path more than any of the other paths. If this girl was capable of manipulating gravity on that final level, then the Deva path was screwed. Miss, can you let me go? I promise to behave. Konan stated. Setsuna nodded and released the woman. This may be impertinent of me, but why are you killing off the paths of pain? Konan asked. They offend me on a fundamental level. In my society, eating other people's souls has been taboo for centuries, and then one of them had the nerve to assault me with my own subordinate. Setsuna explained. Wait, what? Subordinate? Konan asked. MMMHMM. Knucklehead thought it a good idea to summon the king of hell against someone who has dominion over the afterlife. Setsuna explained. Dear Kami? Konan breathed out. Yes. Setsuna asked with a chuckle. What? Konan asked. You said, and I quote, Dear Kami. Well, my dear, I happen to be the closest thing there is to such a person outside of the other Sailor Scouts. Well, unless I decide to take you to the world of Clock Tower and figure out a way to introduce you to Amaterasu Mikami without getting you incinerated in the process. Setsuna explained with a grin. The hell you mean there really are gods out there? Konan asked incredulously. Yes. Well, at least in some realities. This one seems to have killed off its own somehow. Not really sure what happened there as I arrived long after it happened. Setsuna explained. Damn it, this is just going to go to Nagato's head if he learns of it. Learns of what, Konan? A loud but emotionless voice said from behind Konan. Setsuna frowned at the intruder in their conversation. However, it was Konan who responded. Deva path. Great. This just went from enlightening to terrifying. Miss, I am convinced enough to help you, but I am going to need my abilities back if I want to survive this. Setsuna tapped Konan on the shoulder and said, there you go. Thanks. So what can this one do? Setsuna asked. Control gravity. Konan said. Setsuna gave Konan a deadpan look and said, please tell me you are joking. Not in the slightest bit. Konan said just as deadpan. Okay, well that makes things easy then. Setsuna said. What? What do you mean easy? Konan screamed out incredulously. I just turn off his ability like this. Setsuna pointed the garnet rod at the man and set off. The Deva path frowned and raised a hand saying, Bansham 10 in. His frown grew even deeper when absolutely nothing happened. What did you do? Like I said, I turned your ability off. Now my dear friend here can use her paper to eliminate you. Setsuna said with a cheery voice. Sorry Nagato, but you only claim to be Kami, this girl has offered to introduce me to the real deal. Konan said with a sad smile on her face, Kami Shuriken. As soon as she said that, hundreds of hardened pieces of paper flew off of her body and slammed into the Deva path's body, giving it all manner of severe paper cuts. As the coup de grace, Konan raised both of her hands above her head and declared Kami Chakram. As a large whirling buzzsaw of paper formed above her head which she launched at the path. This resulted in the path being decapitated. Fascinating. Now tell me my dear, how many of these paths are there and what do they want with my prince? Setsuna asked. Prince? How well, originally there were 6. If you had already dealt with the ones that can eat souls and summon the king of hell, in addition to the one we just dealt with, then that leaves the Asura path, animal path, and Preta path and Nagato's main body, but he is immobile and not going anywhere anytime soon. He actually needs the help of either the animal or Naraka paths to get around anymore, though I imagine he can summon the king of hell on his own, I've just never seen him do it. Konan explained. Okay, that helps, though you didn't answer the question about my prince. Setsuna stated. Well, the thing is that the organization I was affiliated with through my friendship to Nagato has been collecting the 9 Jinchuriki. First question, what is a Jinchuriki? They are people who have had one of the 9-tailed demon beasts sealed within them to prevent the beasts from destroying the world. My prince has one of these sealed inside of him. Setsuna asked incredulously. If his name is Naruto Uzumaki, then yes. Well, in that case I will need to speed up the process of awakening his sister to her destiny. Setsuna stated. Sister? Konan asked, but Naruto is an only child, his parents died the night he was born and had no other children. Oh, didn't I mention I am from another dimension? Well, the Queen of the Moon a few hundred years ago, from my perspective, was having a bit of a crisis as her kingdom was falling apart. So in a last-ditch effort to rescue her kingdom, she sent the souls of all of her subjects forward in time. This includes the souls of her twin children, a son and daughter. The problem is that something got messed up in the process and the prince's soul got sent to a different universe than it was supposed to be sent to. This universe. I only just managed to track it down. Setsuna explained. Oh buggering hell. Konan exclaimed. How screwed would we have been if he had died? I would have kidnapped Primate Murder from Ultrauj Brunestad and set him loose in this world. Setsuna stated. The hell is a primate murder? Konan asked. Just what the name says. Setsuna said with a mad cackle as she started walking again. XXX town square XXXXXX half an hour later XXX. The 3 remaining paths of pain stood on one side of the square, Setsuna and Konan on the other. Both sides actively glaring at the other when suddenly a massive pop sounded and a large cloud of white smoke appeared out of thin air. Oh, that is wonderful. Could they have not summoned him into the middle of this like that? Konan growled. Setsuna used some mild repulsive force to clear the smoke and grinned at what she saw before her. There, standing on top of a rather gigantic toad, was her prince. Boy. Who are you and why are you in such a flimsy outfit in a battle like this? Naruto yelled down at Setsuna. Setsuna pouted, I will have you know that this outfit was specially designed by your mother. Hasan? Naruto frowned. Now my prince, come over here while I deal with those 3 nuisances. Setsuna stated. Naruto-chan, don't trust her, she is standing next to one of the people responsible for killing Jiraiya-chan. The wrinkled old toad next to Naruto stated. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Konan. Yeah, sorry about that. Konan stated. I know I can't make up for the loss of sensei, but I can guarantee you that this woman has your best interests at heart, whereas those 3 over there will kidnap you and forcibly extract the Kyuubi from you, a process that is excruciatingly painful and which will ultimately kill you. And if you die my prince, I will set something loose in this world that is far worse than any tailed beast in retribution for killing someone that they should have treasured. Setsuna explained. Damn it, Fukasaku, you may be right to not trust the lavender-haired girl, but the other one has given me no option but to trust her. Naruto ground out. You may be right, Naruto-chan. Fukasaku conceded. But that said, Naruto leapt over to Setsuna and Konan in a single bound. Hi, I am Naruto Uzumaki, and you two are? Konan. The lavender-haired girl stated. For right now call me Sailor Pluto. Now, let's see, what did you say the abilities of these three were again, Konan-chan? Ah, well, the small girl can summon any animal she wants no matter what it is, and it is forcibly subjected it to her will. Konan stated. Setsuna glanced over at the toads for a moment and said, do toads normally get that large in this world? Naruto and Konan blinked and both answered, summons aren't from this world. Ah, well, that explains what is sapping my gates then. I will be remedying that when we get to Pluto. For now, I think the best option for that one would be him. Yeah, that should do it. Setsuna pointed the garnet rod at the girl and said, go chillax at B4641 SGR. And just like that the girl vanished from the battlefield. Almost simultaneously the other two paths fell to the ground and seemed to stop moving or doing anything really. What did you just do? Konan asked in shock. Tell me, how is Nagato controlling the paths? Setsuna asked. Chakra receivers, coupled with the Rinnegan Dijutsu. He can perceive everything that they do and control their bodies as if they were his own. Konan answered. Well, that might explain what just happened then. The path I just teleported away is technically still alive, but only because time moves so slowly where she is that it would appear to take roughly 1,000 years from our perspective for all her biological functions to completely stop functioning. Setsuna stated. Which of course means that our good friend Nagato-san is currently perceiving the world at what if it were a speed would be roughly negative 671,000,001 miles per hour. My magic may have also inadvertently and massively amplified the effect of those chakra receivers in her body, judging by the fact he is receiving her signal from over 9,405,800,597,093,772 miles away from this planet right now. The hell? What could possibly do that? Naruto asked in a completely horrified voice. The quantum singularity, or as it is more commonly known, a black hole. It's what happens when something like the sun becomes so absolutely massive that it collapses in upon itself and begins to suck all the matter in the immediate region of space around it into itself. Objects with that kind of mass exhibit extreme time dilation fields to the point that it is extremely dangerous to be anywhere near them, as once you enter the field, it is too late to escape the gravitational pull of the black hole, and you are ultimately going to be ripped apart at the subatomic level. Only myself and the residents of the planet of Gallifrey in Universe 982 are truly safe from black holes, and I have revoked all travel privileges to Universe 982 or any universe that is in close proximity to it. Why did you revoke those privileges? Konan asked. Because the self-proclaimed Time Lords are only able to claim such a title because they haphazardly travel through time like they own the time stream, not caring what they mess up while they do so. Then when they realize they screwed up something major, they use one of their various pieces of advanced technology to reckon the entire situation so that it fits their vision of history. The only Time Lord I actually get along with is Kenneth. Setsuna explained. Kenneth? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Don't tell him I told you that, he doesn't even know I know his real name. Kind of hard to hide things like that when the time stream is my television set and his life provides some of the best entertainment. I mean, I never even imagined he would marry someone who was effectively his own daughter. That was hilarious. Continued Setsuna. Wait, what? Naruto asked. Kenneth, otherwise known to the world by the name of the Doctor, married a woman named River Song, who was a partial female clone of him. She had regenerations and everything. Well, he is still alive at least. Zetsu commented. Is this a genjutsu? Obito asked. No. A genjutsu placed on one of the paths would have had no effect on him. Whatever this is, it is something else. Zetsu stated. Is there a way to revive him? Unknown without knowing what it is affecting him. Zetsu stated. That means unless Konan returns alive, that we are effectively down to 2 members because Itachi is pretty much dead on his feet and neither of us has the Rinnegan. Obito said in an angry voice as he fumed over the situation. We could always transplant one of Nagato's eyes into you, that would solve the immediate problem. Zetsu stated. Without knowing if it is some sort of jutsu specifically designed to incapacitate a bearer of the Rinnegan in this manner, we can't risk it. I will go to Konoha and see what I can discover. Surely the answer lies there. Obito commanded. Would it not be wiser for me to go? Zetsu asked cautiously. I am afraid not. At this point you are too integral to the overall plan to risk on a mission. Whatever caused this completely disabled the assault team. I should be better suited to dealing with the situation than Nagato was. XXX later on the road towards the Hokage Tower XXX. Naruto, Fukasaku, Setsuna and Konan all stopped walking to stare at the sight in front of them. Is that man really trying to suck on a lollipop through that bizarre mask of his? Setsuna asked. I've seen weirder. Kakashi-sensei somehow manages to eat full-course dinners without ever taking his ski mask off. Naruto stated blandly. But Setsuna protested. Guys, not to put too fine an edge on this, but that is the real leader of the Akatsuki. He is also completely untouchable. Konan stated. Untouchable? Setsuna asked, narrowing her eyes at the man. Damn it, Konan, you had to go and ruin my fun. I guess this means you have turned traitor then. The man stated. How can I be a traitor when I was never loyal to the Akatsuki? My loyalty resided solely to Omegakure and by proxy to Nagato. The Akatsuki is not Omegakure. Konan stated. Yes, still, as you have betrayed our trust, I will have to end you. And with that the man rushed forward straight at Konan with the intent to kill. Naruto threw several kunai at the man, but they passed straight through him, leaving a sort of rippling distortion as they passed. Oh hell no. Setsuna exclaimed as she slammed the butt end of the garnet rod into the man's stomach, causing him to stagger back. What? How? The man exclaimed in shock. Honestly, what is with this world and the casual disregard for the laws of space-time? Setsuna growled out. The fuck? Madara, allow me to introduce to you, Sailor Pluto, the guardian of time. Konan stated. Fucking hell. Madara stated. That's right, little man, you just pissed off the wrong woman with that trick of yours. Setsuna stated. I have permanently disabled your ability to travel between dimensions like that. Now for something a little niftier. Feel what it is like to be nailed to the sky. Obito emitted a girly little shriek as he was rocketed out of the atmosphere. So cool. Naruto said. Wait for it, Setsuna said. Suddenly the sky lit up as if it were on fire, but that fire never reached the ground. The hell was that? Konan asked fearfully. That was your former colleague being incinerated during his atmospheric re-entry. Setsuna stated. You can do that? Konan asked in shock. Yep. Setsuna said rather smugly. I should warn you, there are 2 other Akatsuki members, and if they are feeling desperate they could go ask Orochimaru for backup. Konan stated. The circle serpent. Fascinating. Setsuna stated, I have to ask, is he actually a snake? Suddenly a laugh broke out from behind the group, causing them to turn around and come face to face with Anko Midarashi. Setsuna blinked at what the woman was wearing and said, are you really wearing nothing but fishnet as your shirt? Look who's talking, miss, my skirt is so short that I might as well not even be wearing it, Anko stated with a leer at Setsuna. Setsuna had the common decency to blush at that statement. It was true, the skirts of the Sailor Scouts were dangerously short. I think you and I will get along admirably. I imagine we will. Now in answer to your question, yes, by this point he probably succeeded in that particular experiment. Anko stated. The hell is wrong with this world? Setsuna asked in complete and utter stupefaction. This caused everyone present except Setsuna to break out laughing. XXX Hokage's office XXX. Tsunade looked up as several people entered her office. Anko, okay, enemy combatant, that is unusual, Fukasaku and Naruto to be expected, and Tsunade banged her head down on her desk and exclaimed, I finally have a reason to be glad that Jiraiya is dead. Seriously, what are you wearing? It's called a sailor fuku. Setsuna admitted. Who named an article of clothing sailor fuck you? Everyone in the room asked in shock. It is pronounced fuku, not fuck you. Setsuna instructed. I suppose that is a tad bit better then. But why is it so skin tight? Tsunade asked. Apparently Konan designed it. Naruto stated. Kushina-chan made that abomination. Tsunade asked in horror. Who's Kushina? Setsuna asked. Naruto's mother, Tsunade stated. Oh no, when I said his mother designed it, I meant his mother from his past life. Setsuna admitted sheepishly. The hell? Tsunade asked. Roll with it, Lady Hokage. She has a significant mastery over time. If she says she knew his past life's mother well at this point, I am willing to believe her. The enemy combatant stated. And who are you? Tsunade asked. I am Konan. I have no surname. Konan stated. Konan? Wait, my little Konan-chan. Tsunade asked with a bright smile. Konan smiled, it is good to see you as well, Milady. How are Nagato-kun and Yahiko-kun? Tsunade asked. At that question Konan's face fell and she began to cry at the memories. Oh, I am so sorry, my dear. If there is anything that can be done. Tsunade asked. Unfortunately Yahiko died years ago, and Nagato, well, he might have been better off dying as well compared to what ended up happening, Konan admitted. He lost sight of our dream and had it replaced by a nightmare that he wanted to impose on the rest of the world. Dream? Nightmare? Setsuna asked. The dream, if I am correct, is the one that Jiraiya instills into all of his students, Tsunade stated. To bring the world into an era of peace. Naruto continued. The nightmare however was to use the chakra of the tailed beasts to power a jutsu so devastating that it would show the world the meaning of true pain. Nagato came to believe that only once people understood that horrific sensation would there ever be peace. Peace through fear of pain. Konan elaborated. That is truly awful. Setsuna stated. It actually gets worse because I managed to figure out what the ultimate goal of the Akatsuki was, something which Nagato never managed to figure out. Okay, so what is the endgame for the Akatsuki? Tsunade asked in a calm tone of voice. The complete resurrection of the Juubi and its conversion into the Shinju, which would enable a person with a Manjaku Sharingan to place the entire world under the infinite Tsukuyomi Genjutsu. And what is the infinite Tsukuyomi? Tsunade asked. It is an illusion that would completely pacify an individual under its effect by making them experience an eternal vision of whatever they perceive to be the perfect life. Konan stated. Well, there is a remarkably easy way to solve that issue rather permanently. It is such a good thing I did a flyby of the moon and found it to be inhabited by some sort of odd demons instead of the lunar kingdom it was supposed to house. Setsuna stated. Setsuna walked over to the window opened it and looked up at the moon. Never had to do this before, but that Aoko girl proved it is possible, so here goes nothing. Suddenly lots of blue lights and energy began appearing around Setsuna. Several of these lights took the form of what looked like a Fuinjutsu array to the shinobi in the room, but using a script that none of them had ever seen before. Setsuna held out her hand, and a large ball of energy began forming in front of it. Shoot. The shockwave caused by the beam of concentrated magical energy launching out of her hand caused all of the people who were standing up in the room, except for Setsuna, to fall to the ground due to the muzzle velocity it was launched with. A few seconds after that a deafening explosion from high in the sky was heard. Wow, that was audible. Setsuna asked a bit out of shock at what had just happened. The hell did you just do? Tsunade roared in outrage. Blew up the moon of course. Setsuna stated. I am continually in awe of just what you are capable of doing, Setsuna-chan. Konan stated, having learned her actual name on the walk over to the Hokage Tower. I wasn't even sure that would work, truth be told. All I knew was that someone with similar powers to mine used a similar technique to blow apart a large planet-bound asteroid that would have destroyed life on the planet. That asteroid wasn't even close to the same size as the moon, Setsuna explained before adding, and their newly created pocket of stable gravity that has roughly the same mass as the moon did and is in the same orbital pattern as the moon. That will stop any natural disasters from occurring. XXX elsewhere in the elemental nations XXX. Zetsu was staring into the sky in complete and utter shock. The entire plant had just gone down the drain. How did this happen? Who could possibly have the power to destroy the fucking moon in a single shot like that? What am I supposed to do now? Zetsu asked no one in particular. XXX back in Konoha XXX. So let me get this straight. You came to this world so you could find Naruto and then reunite him with his sister, a sister who the last time you checked doesn't even remember her original identity. Tsunade asked while rubbing her temples to relieve the migraine she could already feel coming. Yes, that is correct. Setsuna stated. Okay, say he goes with you, you already admitted that the kingdom he was originally part of suffered some sort of catastrophe. Is such a thing likely to happen again? Tsunade asked. The possibility is vastly increased if he is not present. There are actually multiple futures that exist for any given world. That is what causes the phenomena of worlds that are closely parallel to each other in most cases. However, the two most common deviations are where he is present and able to stop Sailor Galaxia before she can do any harm to the Sailor Scouts, or where he isn't present and all the Scouts save for his sister herself die as a consequence of Galaxia's actions. I have been unable to see what happens after their deaths though, so I don't know the final outcome in that scenario. Setsuna explained. How would Naruto be able to stop someone who, if I am correct, is at least as powerful as you, if not more so? Anko asked in confusion. Setsuna sighed. It would be easier to demonstrate this back in our original universe. Here I am afraid I am going to have to jump-start the process a bit. What do you mean? Tsunade asked in confusion. All three of the other girls in the room watched utterly flabbergasted as Setsuna roughly grabbed Naruto by the shirt and forced her tongue down into his mouth. Naruto himself was completely shocked by the action as he had never been kissed even once before in his life. As soon as she released him from the kiss, Naruto was flooded with the memories of his past life. He was also enveloped in a golden light. When the light cleared, the others saw that his traditional orange and black clothing had been replaced by something that to them seemed completely otherworldly but also completely combat practical. Naruto was encased from neck to foot in gold armor with dark blue accents. There was a red cloth coming out of the front just below the crotch guard and a similar cloth trailing out of the back. This armor is one of only 2 copies of this type of armor to have ever existed. The other copy belonged to the king of Uruk Gilgamesh and he took that armor to the grave with him. Setsuna explained. I can only thank Kami that I am not as arrogant as the memories I just got say that man was. Naruto stated. Yes, well, the armor was a gift to him by your mother. She was the only woman to successfully catch the guy's attention for longer than a few moments. She was the only person he considered his equal. Unfortunately that hussy Ishtar decided to ruin a good thing. Setsuna stated. Right, didn't you say earlier that the gods aren't on our world? Naruto asked, now fully believing he was in the wrong world. Gods can travel freely between the worlds and then there is that bothersome interdimensional clusterfuck that I would get rid of if I could, known as the Throne of Heroes. That thing has absolutely no respect for a person's afterlife. That thing has indirectly caused so many disasters in the various close parallels to the Clock Tower universe that I wouldn't even know where to begin in fixing that problem. Setsuna stated. So what is Naruto now capable of? Tsunade asked. Well, from what I gathered by my memory download I can essentially sustain a perpetual senjutsu form, but it would be rather dissimilar to the one I was taught on Mount Myaboku. Additionally how that is damn. I have gained the ability to use all 5 basic nature transformations, in addition, I can use the lava, boil, scorch, magnet and what the hell is a dark release? Naruto said the last bit as an open question. It means you can manipulate light waves, my prince. Why did you get those specific 5 Kekkei Genkai? Anko asked. Naruto sighed and said, well my sister and mother draw their power from the moon, I draw my power from the sun. Specifically the sun in that universe, which is why Setsuna Hime had to kickstart the transformation the way she did. Hime? Tsunade asked. Setsuna has been incredibly coy about it, but she is a princess as well. Specifically the princess of Pluto. Naruto stated. Well I did say I was as close as Konan was likely to find to a goddess outside the other scouts. Setsuna stated smugly. Naruto smacked Setsuna upside the head. Ouch. Baka. Don't do that while your hand is encased in a metal glove. Consider that a punishment for acting high and mighty. Naruto said in a chiding voice. Yes sir. Setsuna said somberly. While she would probably disregard any punishments the princess tried to hand out due to her being incredibly too bubbly to be taken seriously, the prince was always a different matter. He could be a bit of a goof at times, but when he became serious about something, it meant you had to be serious too. So? I guess this means I am approving the mission to another world. Tsunade Hime Naruto began to speak only to get interrupted. What did you just call me? Tsunade asked in a sharp tone of voice. I said Tsunade Hime. Like it or not, you are essentially a princess in your own right. You are the granddaughter of the first Hokage, as well as the granddaughter of one of the most highly thought of Uzumaki in history. Even if you do not bear a title of nobility, you are considered royalty by the people simply because of who your grandparents were. Naruto explained. Naruto's information download had also included an info dump from the portion of Kushina stashed inside of the Kyuubi seal. Naruto now knew everything. Tsunade sighed in resignation before saying, just do me a favor Naruto, take a few people with you that you can trust to watch your back in that world. I'll be going with them. Konan admitted. I wonder if anyone in that new world of yours can do anything about Hebe Team's Hiki of Doom? Anko asked the room at large. Everyone in the room blinked, Naruto and Setsuna slowly turned their heads to look at the exhibitionist. What did you just say? Orochimaru tends to place cursed seals on the people he likes the most. Tsunade stated. Yes, and the way he does it is biting them. Konan admitted. Naruto turned to look at Setsuna and asked moon healing escalation, you think? Setsuna nodded her head, probably. It works for almost any form corruption I have ever seen. Out of curiosity was that what happened to Sasuke team? Naruto asked. Yeah it sure was, ungrateful bastard. Anko stated. What do you mean? Setsuna asked. The Hiki will, if you get it sealed and learn to control your emotions, leave you alone. Anko stated. Let me guess, he didn't do one of those 2 things. Setsuna asked. Psychological profiles of the boy that he never knew were being done on him indicate that while on the surface he appears to remain calm in almost any situation. Underneath that he is a writhing mass of negative emotions, mostly focused on the goal of killing his brother, who was under orders from one of my predecessors to eliminate the threat posed by the rest of the Uchiha clan, who were planning what would be a violent coup. Itachi for whatever reason decided to spare his younger brother, but only after subjecting him to a genjutsu, where he was forced to watch his parents being brutally stabbed to death repeatedly, for what to him felt like 72 hours straight. Tsunade explained. No child should ever have to witness something like that. Both Konan and Setsuna shrieked in absolute horror. Yes, well that is true, it certainly explains why he opted to become a Nukenin instead of remain in the village if he thought doing such a thing would give him the power to put down Itachi. Naruto said coldly. Suddenly the door to the office opened and 2 shinobi stood there. Hankuro? Tamari. What are you two doing here? Naruto asked. Tamari took a good look at the people in the room and fell on the floor holding her gut as she laughed uncontrollably. What got into her? Anko asked in a confused tone of voice. We live in a desert. The outfits Naruto and the mysterious new girl are wearing would be laughed at the instant they showed up there. Kankuro stated dryly. Naruto smirked and said, surprisingly this armor comes complete with air conditioning features. Queen Serenity, or Mom I guess, did design it with the intent of giving one copy of it to a guy who lived in a desert. As for myself, watch this. Pluto planet power. Desert option, makeup. Setsuna exclaimed, causing a sheath of light to cover her for a few seconds. When the light cleared, she was wearing a variation of the sailor fuku she had started with, except it looked more like the service dress uniform worn by the United States Navy's petty officers, and that it was loose-fitting with full-length slacks and long sleeves. That is much more practical. Kankuro admitted. Tamari managed to rein in her laughter after a few more moments and had to ask, Naruto, what on earth are you wearing? And where can I get some? Naruto frowned and thought, Setsuna, what is the state of armor's thing on Earth in its current century? If you are thinking of trying to get a armorsmith from Earth to craft armor like that, don't bother. It can't be done. Setsuna stated. I guess we are bringing Tenten with us then. She'll probably want her own set too. Naruto said. Tsunade nodded and thought for a moment. Kidnap Hinata and Hanabi while you are at it. Hinata will thank you for it and Hanabi could do with a vacation, the poor girl. How in the name of the moon am I supposed to pull that off? Naruto asked. Tsunade frowned, you do have a point. Those damn eyes of theirs, you know what? Screw it, Hanabi is a genin, time for her to go on her first C-rank mission. You're classing this as C-rank? Anko asked incredulously. Only to get it under the Hiyashi's radar. I would technically class this an S-rank infiltration mission with high risks of defection. Tsunade stated, but Hiyashi doesn't need to know that. Tsunade began scribing on a scroll, Anko, please deliver this to Hiyashi. Yes, Lady Hokage. Anko stated, grabbing the scroll and departing the office via Shunshin. Do I have to kill her for disobeying the laws of space-time? Setsuna asked in sadness. No, Setsuna Haim, that was simply a method of allowing you to move faster than the eye can normally perceive. It does not violate temporal mechanics, it just requires reinforcing one's body to incredible levels so that you don't succumb to the G-forces. Right, anyways, Tamari, Kankuro, do you think you two could go find Tenten? She's probably out training with Guy or something. Tsunade asked. Aye Guy. Oh, be right back. Setsuna stated and vanished in a puff of green light. The hell did she just do? Konan asked. She teleported. She always complains when the troll of the clock tower shows up in our world because he is so much better at teleporting like that than she is and he tends to bypass her gates and it annoys her to no end that he can do that. He also can't seem to avoid hitting on Setsuna each and every time he shows up. The guy looks like an 80-year-old man by the way. Naruto explained. Both Tsunade and Konan shivered at the thought of such an old fossil hitting on that sweet young girl. Little did they know that although she looks young, she had been continuously alive for around 4,200 years give or take. Calculating the exact date she was born by the modern Earth calendar was something she never bothered to do as humans back then didn't even record the days beyond knowing the cycle of the seasons. XXX Team Guy Training Field XXX. Ai Sensei. Lee-kun. Ai Sensei. Lee, thunk thunk. Didn't I already tell you two to stop it with the homoerotic illusions? A terse voice stated from behind the two men. Oh, Setsuna-chan. Guy asked while rubbing his head. Normally a physical blow to the head wouldn't even faze him. But somehow this girl could break any and all defenses he had. What is more is that she had volunteered to spar with the two of them while they had none of their weights on and could outpace them the entire time. That is my name, don't wear it out. Setsuna said in a sing-song tone of voice. Can I keep her? Tenten asked from over in the corner. I wouldn't mind having her around more frequently as well. Niji admitted. I've actually come to ask a favor of you lot. How would you all like to go on an extended vacation? Setsuna asked. What is the catch? Niji inquired. Simple. I pick their clothes, she said, pointing at Guy and Lee. And you act as bodyguard to Hinata and Hanabi on the mission, Niji. And what about me? Tenten asked. You'd have wanted to come regardless of what I could have said, so I have no stipulations on you coming along. Setsuna admitted. Tenten raised her eyebrow in intrigue at that statement. Orochimaru calmly sat and listened to Zetsu explain the situation to him before he cracked a grin and said, oh dear, it seems those ancient records from before the time of the Sage of Six Paths that I uncovered actually bear some truth to what they were implying. What? Zetsu asked swiftly. You people are fools. You angered a senshi. I have no idea why she is on this planet, but make no mistake, angering a senshi that severely is the last thing anyone ever does in their lifetime. Each senshi has powers that make chakra look pedestrian by comparison. These powers are nothing short of true magic. Orochimaru stated. That is impossible. Such people cannot exist. Zetsu said uncomprehendingly. I did not think they existed until the very moment I saw the moon be destroyed. No chakra technique would be capable of that, you can have my word on that. Orochimaru stated rather firmly. I will also not be helping you in this situation, as my sense of self-preservation is a little bit more refined than to go in and attack a senshi like that, especially one who can put Nagato-kun into a coma. Do you at least know of a way to get him out of it? Zetsu asked. Judging by the symptoms you have described, compared with the descriptions in the tablets I found, you are dealing with the senshi of Pluto. In which case you are shit out of luck, because what she most likely did was toss one of the still living paths into the nearest quantum singularity. Which based on what the tablet said means that he is experiencing the world at such a slow rate of perception that he will be dead due any number of complications that can turn up in such a weakened body long before the connection between him and that path is finally severed by the body being destroyed by gravimetric tidal forces. His case is hopeless. Would your apprentice care for his Rinnegan then? Zetsu asked. You already know my plans for Sasu-kun, as such asking such a thing is entirely pointless. Orochimaru stated flatly. Very well. Goodbye Orochimaru. Zetsu stated as he faded into the ground. XXX Hokage Tower XXX. Setsuna arrived in the tower with the entirety of Team Guy to discover Hanabi, Hinata, and Anko were already present. Naruto took one look at the presence of the entirety of Team Guy and facepalmed, this has something to do with Venus, doesn't it? How did you ever guess? Setsuna asked while tilting her head to the side. Because she was always bugging you to let her watch the universes that had those weird Power Rangers in them, Naruto stated dryly. Good answer. Her current name is Minako Aino, and she has taken to going around duplicating those ridiculous poses and speeches whenever she is doing her job as a senshi. Setsuna stated. Naruto was forced to facepalm yet again. Fine, they can come. But you are their babysitter. Of course. Setsuna stated happily. Now that everyone is here, shall I begin the mission brief? Tsunade asked. Getting several nods of assent, Tsunade sighed and said, off the record this mission is an S-rank infiltration mission with high risk of defection. On the record, it is a C-rank bodyguarding mission for a newly discovered member of a foreign royal house for the purpose of delivering him back to his home. Everyone blinked, including Kankuro and Temari who were still present. Temari shot a look at Naruto and the golden armor and smirked, I think I am going to accompany them on this mission. I'll catch you later Kankuro. Yeah, sure, whatever. I'll be sure to report you MIA when I get back to Suna. Kankuro deadpanned. Tsunade slammed her head down on her desk again and exclaimed moron. He is only joking Lady Hokage. Temari stated, he and I tend to joke about things like that all the time now. Ever since our brother gained a sense of sanity and stopped killing people for even the most inane of reasons we can have a little levity by making such jokes. That is really stupid. Tsunade stated as she raised her head off of a table that now had several fissures running through its surface. Even if it was just her head and she wasn't using her chakra techniques to enhance it any, Tsunade's strength was still a sight to behold. Anyways, as I was saying, the C-rank description is entirely accurate, it just neglects mentioning where exactly the royal house is located. Setsuna, can you explain this for us? Tsunade asked. Let's see how did Kenneth explain this again. Oh yes. And I quote people assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly time-wimey stuff. The multiverse is basically a big web created out of multiple versions of such balls. I can navigate that mess with relative ease. Basically what this means is that we will be traveling to another universe. Will we still be able to use our chakra in that universe? Niji asked. Yes. Naruto stated matter-of-factly. But then. Shall we all go pack? Niji asked. Everyone but Guy and Lee. You two are coming with me. Setsuna stated as she grabbed Guy and Lee by the scruff of the neck and teleported with them. Where did she take them? Konan asked. The nearest barber and men's wear shop. Naruto stated dryly. How did you know her stipulation on them coming was that she gets to choose what they wear? Tenten asked curiously. I just got the memories of a past life where I got to spend a lot of time hanging out watching the time stream with that woman. If there is one thing I know about her, it is that she would not be caught dead in public on the planet Earth with two men in tight green spandex. Naruto stated tiredly. And the barber? Anko asked. Have you seen their hair and eyebrows? Naruto asked incredulously. At this everyone in the room broke down into laughter. Tenten's only thought was those poor boys just met a woman that can control them. After everyone finished except Naruto left to go pack, Tsunade asked Naruto, don't you have anything you want to take with you? Well, I would take Ichiraku's with me if I could get away with it, Naruto stated. I doubt that would go over well. Tsunade admitted. Well, other than that, no, not really. Naruto admitted. And why haven't you dismissed the armor like I imagine you can? Tsunade asked. Naruto sniffed and said, I like this armor. It reminds me of Serenity Kasen. Oh, I see. Well, Naruto, these may be the last few moments we ever see each other during. I wish you a long life and much happiness. Tsunade stated. Tsunade. How old would you say that Setsuna is? Naruto asked. Tsunade frowned and thought and said, she can't be more than 20, can she? Naruto chuckled and said, when she activated my powers, I got a brief flash of her memories, as well as those of Kushina Kasen and my own from my past life. What I discovered is that Setsuna was never reincarnated the way that the rest of the Moon Kingdom was. She has been alive for all of the intervening centuries between then and the reincarnation of the other senshi. Wait, you and Setsuna seem to use the term senshi and scout interchangeably, is there a reason for that? Tsunade asked. Naruto thought about it for a moment. Senshi is similar to a title of nobility, I guess. It roughly translates to guardian and is roughly the same rank as the title Lord Knight. Scout is more of the job description, but a piss poor one. I blame my sister for coming up with that. So why do you and Setsuna use it then if it is such a bad job description? One word, Luna. I hesitate to ask. Tsunade stated. Luna is basically the nanny of the Moon Kingdom's royalty. That included the princesses of the other planets in the solar system, all of whom were senshi. Well, as it turns out, Luna was the first one to hear Serena mention the word in that context and thought it was a brilliant idea, and thus it became canonized because Luna is the one primarily in charge of training the senshi in their powers. Her boyfriend Artemis is more the strategic planning trainer. The hell? Tsunade asked incredulously. Does it help your impression of Luna to know that she and Artemis are talking cats that can only become human for a handful of hours in a day? Naruto asked innocently. Tsunade banged her head against her desk again, which resulted in the desk issuing forth an ominous creak. Tsunade, I think you should probably stop killing your desk now. Naruto said with a massive sweat drop forming. Perhaps you are right. Tsunade sighed. The doors opened to reveal Hanabi, Hinata, and Niji all packed and ready to go. We the first ones back? Hinata stuttered. Yeah, it would seem so. Naruto nodded. Now let us see. I should probably go on ahead to Charon Palace and re-establish its atmosphere. Setsuna mentioned it was in a pretty shoddy state of disrepair. How are you going to get there? Tsunade inquired. Fun little fact, apparently my alternate in this universe who died centuries ago was the inventor of the Horatian, because when I got my memory download, it came with alerting me to several 100 million Horatian beacons all over the solar system. I only knew what they were because in my original universe I did the same exact thing. I can pretty much get anywhere I want to in the entire solar system of both universes at this point. That is a rather scary thought. Niji stated. Yeah, well, it is kind of useless on this planet because all my beacons are buried under large amounts of sediment deposits due to the intervening centuries and the fact that geology is constantly in flux on a planet. Fortunately, Charon Palace is an artificially constructed orbital satellite and not part of the planet of Pluto itself, thus my beacons there are completely undisturbed. Now if you will excuse me, Naruto stated just as he blinked out of existence. Unlike with Setsuna's teleport, which was more gradual in happening, Naruto's Horatian was rather abrupt and took place faster than the eye could process. I always hated that technique. Tsunade growled out. XXX Charon Palace XXX. Naruto took one look at the state of the palace, let out a slow breath that shouldn't be possible in this environment before saying, I am so glad I placed a beacon in Tsunade's office before I left. This is terrible. What the hell happened in this universe? Naruto walked over to the nearest console and prodded at it. Damn it. Okay, atmospherics are this way, Naruto stated as he walked off down the hall. As soon as he reached the atmosphere control room and entered it, he began pulling apart the entire workstation in the room. Well, this at least is helpful. The power and control crystals are still operational. I think whatever happened here was that someone managed to force a system-wide shutdown on the entire palace. Which means they would have had to issue the command from damn it, the only place that could happen is by inputting the shutdown command directly into the palace heart. The gate is not connected to the heart though, which is why it is still operational. Naruto got up and began walking the long walk into the very bowels of the palace heart. Upon arriving there, he stopped and stared in horror at what he was seeing. Setsuna. What happened to you? The crippled and decrepit form of what was one Sailor Pluto looked up at the person who had spoken to her. Ignatius. Yes. Naruto agreed. I am the last. Sailor Galaxia, she destroyed all the others. When that was fulfilled, she crippled me, disabled the palace and plunged humanity into its age of darkness by inciting the rise of chakra among the humans. The alternate of Setsuna explained. Where was I when this happened? Naruto asked. You had gone missing years before she arrived. No one knew what had happened. I couldn't locate you in the time stream. Setsuna said. Naruto frowned at that. Setsuna, I am going to reactivate the palace. Naruto stated. No. Setsuna exclaimed. What? Why? If you activate the palace, it will draw Galaxia to this system again. Setsuna stated. Buggering hell. Naruto frowned. Okay, I can deal with this, I think. Thank you for your time, Setsuna. I am always at your service, my liege. Naruto scowled at that statement. Of course, this Setsuna thinks he was the version of Ignatius native to this universe. That was the only assumption she could make without being able to see his soul, and only Serena or their mother can see the souls of other people without outside assistance. And since the entire rest of the Moon Kingdom was dead, that would in her mind automatically promote him to the position of king over the solar system. I am sorry, Setsuna, I am not your Ignatius. Naruto stated as gently as he could. But no, my last hope, Setsuna croaked out. I don't know what happened to him. I wish I did so I could tell you where to look for him, but I don't. My loyalty must always be to my universe. How I even ended up in this universe is an anomaly that your counterpart couldn't figure out either. She only just found me after I don't know how many centuries of searching. Bring her to me. One of the odder traits of our powers is that if one of us is injured or crippled beyond repair, contact with one of our dimensional counterparts will restore us to full health and vitality. Setsuna commanded. Of course. Naruto agreed and vanished in the blink of an eye. Setsuna sighed and said, I really did hope mine would have taught me that trick before vanishing the way he did. XXX Hokage Tower XXXXXX. Several hours after Naruto had initially vanished XXX. Naruto reappeared in the room only to feel a massive weight hit his head. Was that really necessary, Setsuna-ni? Naruto asked. If that actually hurt you, I will sign my retirement forms. Setsuna stated. Well, no, not really, but there is the principle of the thing, you don't just go mauling the crown prince of the Moon Kingdom. Naruto stated. Crown prince? Several voices all asked at the same time. Honestly, Serena was the figurehead, the person mom liked to show off at parties. Stuff like that. I was the one who was expected to carry on the kingdom in mother's absence, I was the one with the leadership skills necessary to rule. All that. And there is also the fact that Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, and weird as it may seem, even Uranus and Neptune all had massive crushes on you. Really? Uranus and Neptune? Weren't they in a relationship with each other? Naruto asked incredulously. Primarily because neither one thought they had a shot with you. Setsuna stated. Naruto stared at her with his mouth hanging open and his eyes widened. I take it that is to say they definitely had a shot with you? Temari asked. Setsuna chuckled and said, how to phrase this, Neptune is basically the embodiment of any straight man's wet dream in terms of what she looks like. As for Uranus. She is the only woman who could keep up with me in a spar. Naruto stated, well, at least until I met you, Tsunade. Anyways, we have a bit of a problem, Setsuna-ni. Naruto stated. Oh, what is that? I just made the discovery that your counterpart in this reality is alive but in really bad condition and needs your assistance. Setsuna vanished in a glowing swirl of green light almost as soon as he finished speaking, leaving everyone else behind. Why didn't she take us with her? Lee asked. Lee, what she is about to do is something which I think needs to be kept extremely private for the sake of her own sanity. Naruto cautioned. What do you mean? Lee asked. Every female in the room had already figured out what Naruto was implying, and all of them, including Hinata and Hanabi, yelled at Lee, drop it. The young ninja could be incredibly naive at times. XXX. Half an hour later, XXX. Setsuna reappeared in the room with a heavy blush on her face. She looked at Naruto and said, she is using her magic to maintain a breathable atmosphere on the palace without powering it up, so we should be safe from attracting Galaxia's attention at this time. However, it is highly advisable that she find somewhere to seek refuge other than this universe, and that we set a delayed explosion to destroy this universe's copy of the gates. Good idea. From what you and she have said about this Galaxia, we certainly don't want her to have unrestricted access to the gates. Naruto stated. She already does. What? Naruto snapped out in shock. She stole my counterpart's keys. Setsuna stated. Of course, which is why we have to destroy the gate here, otherwise she can just use the keys to summon it to her no matter where she is. How much you want to bet that is the reason my counterpart vanished into thin air years before Galaxia made her move on the Moon Kingdom? Naruto asked. Seems reasonable. And if she simply banished him to a universe without a gate or without the clock tower, it would be difficult to locate him, even by viewing the tapestry of the multiverse the way that Zelrich can. It took me ages to find you, and Zelrich was helping me look. And you were in a universe with a gate. Seriously, why do you put up with that man? Naruto asked. As annoying as he is useful. Plus Ultrauge and Arcuate are fun to talk with. Setsuna stated. Who? Naruto asked. His adoptive granddaughters. Those two were probably the only thing keeping me from going on a rampage in some random universe due to sheer boredom in my 3,000 or so years of isolation. Naruto whistled and said 3,000 years, that is way more than I originally anticipated. Yeah, about that Earth's historians date the rule of Gilgamesh to what today is called the year 2600 BCE. That means before the Common Era. Now the year I left was the year 2014 CE. You do the math. That can't possibly be accurate, Naruto stated. Not in the least bit. Humans only started recording years like that relatively recently in their history, and not one culture, until the formation of the Christian church, could agree on a measuring system. The end effect is that Sumeria has a list of kings, the number of years that they ruled for, what region they ruled over, but no actual dates given as to when they ruled. The historians just do a lot of cross-referencing with that list and other sources of information to guesstimate approximately when a particular ruler was in power. Oh, and coincidentally Endymion appears on that list, but not under any name you would recognize him for. The pretty boy that my sister had the hots for? Naruto asked. Are aware of what ultimately led to the moon's downfall? Setsuna asked. Naruto thought about it and suddenly blushed bright red. Naruto, what did you just remember? Setsuna asked with as sweet a tone to her voice as she could. Last thing I can remember of that time period was watching Jupiter getting dressed. Tsunade's head thunked on her desk again and caused the entire surface of the desk to give way. This resulted in a startled yelp from the woman as she tumbled onto the floor. I warned you, Tsunade, Naruto stated. Yeah. Tsunade said as she pulled herself back up into her chair. Right then, Naruto barrel. Setsuna stated. Naruto's head whipped away from Tsunade to stare at Setsuna. Barrel? As in the whore of Macedonia? That's the one. Setsuna stated. Right, of course. It makes sense now. That woman would have wanted Endymion as one of her pets. She tried to get Gilgamesh, but as soon as she showed up he started hurling weapons at her. That man is rather terrifying. Naruto stated. Would it surprise you to know that now that he is in the throne of heroes, he can call forth the weapon of any other hero that has ever existed in the history of the multiverse, and that any weapon he calls forth is automatically one category of power stronger than it would be in anyone else's possession? Setsuna asked. How on earth did he manage that? Naruto asked. He got himself remembered for being the very first hero. Setsuna stated. Naruto facepalmed and said, then what does that make us? Casualties of war apparently. Setsuna stated, no one will remember the Senshi unless, well, actually there is one scenario where the legacy of the Senshi endures for a long damn time, but I can't explain that. Naruto pouted at Setsuna. Spoilers, my prince, spoilers. Now shall we be off? Setsuna asked. After receiving everyone's assent, Setsuna expanded the field of her magic around the party and teleported them all to Charon Palace. A few minutes after they left, Sakura entered the office and asked Lady Tsunade, have you seen Naruto? I wanted to welcome him back to town, but can't seem to find him anywhere. Oh, Sakura-chan, Tsunade said softly as she suddenly realized that this young girl had now lost both of her teammates and didn't even know it yet. Damn it, Naruto, you should have asked Sakura to go with you. Yes, Tsunade, are you crying? Sakura asked. Yes, Sakura, I am, and I fear that once I inform you of the situation you will either be yelling in outrage or crying as well. It is a bit of a gamble as to which. Tsunade stated through her tears. Sakura gulped and nodded her head in understanding. He's left the village probably permanently and you let him go. I had no choice, Sakura. It would have been disastrous for a large group of people if I hadn't. Sakura sighed in resignation, the will of fire. Yes, he has always had that in spades, always willing to protect that which is most precious to him. I am afraid to say that it just isn't this village anymore. Could you at least send people with him that could act as his support? Sakura asked. Damari of Suna, Hinata and Hanabi Hyuga, Anko Mitarashi, a woman by the name of Konan, and the entirety of Team Guy. Tsunade stated. Team bushy brows. Seriously? Sakura asked. As hard as this may be to believe, the woman who came to fetch Naruto specifically requested Guy and Lee join them on this. Initially Naruto was only planning to take Tenten and maybe Niji, but Setsuna made a strong case for adding Guy and Lee. What possible reason could any woman have for bringing those two weirdos with her on a trip? Sakura asked incredulously. Apparently she wants to spook the weird out of one of her friends. A friend who happens to be female and does bizarre speeches about love and friendship as well as odd poses apparently. Sakura blinked several times before she fell on her ass and started laughing her behind off. A group of people from the elemental nations just stood there staring at the sight surrounding them. What the bloody hell? Niji exclaimed after deactivating his Byakugan. Metal and glass for as far as I could see, and that is a pretty long distance. Welcome to the Tokyo megacity of the year 2014. As you will notice, the city is composed of buildings that make even the tallest structure in the elemental nations like microscopic in comparison. If you will follow me, I will show you to your place of residence while in the city. Setsuna stated in the manner of a tour guide. She had deactivated her senshi form prior to arriving in the city and was dressed in a conservative set of slacks with a sweater on top of a blouse. Unlike Setsuna, Naruto had opted to keep his armor on. As such, he was drawing a great deal of attention from the people passing them by. Fortunately, no one seemed to be willing to call him on it thanks to the combined effects of the armor and his own appearance, seeming to simply ooze charisma. Several women were actually left drooling in his wake as he passed them by. The girls in his company, well save Hinata, seemed completely immune to his presence thanks to overexposure to it. Hinata unfortunately had always been rather susceptible to his presence and was thus blushing profusely the entire time she had been around him in that armor. Fortunately, she was able to stop before she began drooling. "We've been walking for a while now," Naruto pointed out. "That is because I want you in the same school as your sister," Setsuna admitted sheepishly. "School?" Naruto asked incredulously. "Believe it or not, but school in this world doesn't end when you turn 12, Naruto," Setsuna stated. "Buggering hell, school," Naruto exclaimed. "Naruto, I could have sworn I downloaded the entirety of the Japanese education program into your mind when I activated your powers. You should be fine. You won't even have to pay attention in class to pass all the tests and do all the homework." "Yashi, can you do that for us as well?" Lee asked. Setsuna looked at Lee and said, "Only in your dreams, green boy." "Huh?" Lee asked. "She has to exchange bodily fluids with whoever she downloads information into the mind of. Nifty trick she picked up from watching a race of people known as the Tamaranians and reversing the principle of what they were doing." "That means these Tamaranians kiss or squick to learn new things?" Hanabi asked. "Essentially, yes. They primarily use it to assimilate languages that they are unfamiliar with, but that has the effect of only giving them the words and their definitions, not the context that they should be used in," Setsuna stated. "Which leads to many the faux pacts and social situations for that species," Naruto stated. "There was one who opted to learn the English language the normal way," Setsuna admitted. "Oh? Yeah, she's a real bitch though," Setsuna stated. "Ah, we have arrived. Welcome to my home while on Earth, Mayu Estate. Now this is more like it," Niji exclaimed, seeing a residence that reminded him of the Hyuga clan compound. "It does look like home," Hanabi said. "This is a style of home that was popular a century or more ago, and almost no one alive today can afford to have these kinds of homes in the middle of Tokyo," Setsuna stated. "How'd you manage it?" Guy asked. "Did I mention I am over 3,000 years old?" Setsuna asked. "You mentioned it," Konan agreed. "Well, one of the absolute best ways to pass time over such an expansive period of time is to play the markets of the world. I am the proud owner of the vast majority of this planet's financial capital and they don't even know it," Setsuna stated. "Is that good?" Naruto asked. "Good? No, not really. The entire world has effectively put themselves into debt and done so willingly. The debt is so massive that none of the nations, even if they all worked together, could buy themselves out of it," Setsuna admitted. "Setsuna, did you start with the intention to financially cripple the world?" Naruto asked. "Not in the least bit. But I got so bored and I just kept succeeding in my market gambles that it just kind of got away from me. I eventually stopped paying attention to the financial situation outside of the occasional news broadcast after I had this place built. Right, no more playing the market for you, Setsuna. You've been a very bad girl and you are going to figure out a way to uncripple the nations of the world," Naruto stated firmly. "Yes sir," Setsuna said demurely. XXX roughly 5 weeks later XXX. "Seriously, Naruto? Put something on." Niji yelled at the young prince through the wall. The shinobi had quickly discovered that back on the Moon Kingdom, Naruto had almost no sense of modesty, thus it had fallen to Niji and Hanabi to make sure he was wearing something before he exited his room. Hinata would have volunteered, but the very first time Naruto had done this, the first person to see him was poor Hinata. Girl fainted from the embarrassment of seeing her crush's naked physique. A few moments later, a fully dressed Naruto exited his room with a rather sheepish expression. "Sorry. I don't understand how you can just forget your clothes like that." "Nah, me either, but somehow I do." The two men proceeded to the family room where they found Setsuna and Anko having a friendly chat. Today was the day that Naruto and the younger generation were going to be joining classes at Juban Municipal Junior High School. There was one question burning in Naruto's mind at the moment. "Setsuna ni, do the reincarnations of the scouts look exactly as they did in the Moon Kingdom?" Setsuna smirked and said, "That is the most hilarious aspect about this entire situation." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. Luna and Artemis were tasked with locating the Moon Princess. Before Beryl does, however, Queen Serenity removed the knowledge of the identity of the Moon Princess from everyone who has been reincarnated, including the two Mao. The only reason you know who she is because I restored it to your memory. Naruto blinked a few times as he processed this information. Great, that means Serena, or Usagi I suppose, looks exactly the same. Well, this is embarrassing. What do you mean? Setsuna asked. I was apparently subconsciously using my sister's appearance as the base of something called the Warak no Jutsu. I don't think that means the same thing to me as whatever it means to you, Setsuna stated. He's talking about the variant of the Henge Jutsu he devised to turn himself into an attractive and completely naked girl. Neji stated acerbically, having figured out that the body Naruto used for that jutsu really existed and that they are about to meet her. Naruto, if I felt confident in my ability to gild you, I would. Hey, I didn't even know she existed at that point in time. Naruto defended himself. Setsuna stared at Naruto for a few moments before she broke out laughing. Why are you laughing? Neji asked incredulously. Except for when outside of the private chambers of the royal family, which amounted to 2 entire wings of the palace that were next to each other, his entire family was essentially a group of nudists. Though apparently Usagi hasn't manifested that aspect of her personality in the current day. You mean all this time? Neji asked as he began going pale. Yes, what you and Hanabi-chan are trying to do, while admirable, is ultimately futile. Setsuna stated. Hanabi came in just in time to hear the full explanation. Told you so, Nai-san. Neji palmed his face in frustration. Point is that Serena would have laughed at the very idea of such a technique, even if Usagi can't be told about it at this point. Setsuna stated. XXX 2 hours later, XXXXXX Usagi's homeroom. XXX. Class, today we have the honor of hosting 2 new students. You can come in now. Naruto and Hinata entered the room and stood at the front of the room as they had been instructed. Their sharp hearing, honed by years as shinobi, picked out the various whispers. Check out her eyes, do you think she's blind? At that one Hinata smirked. He's so dreamy, several voices exclaimed almost at the same time. Hinata frowned at that, she was so used to being the only person even remotely interested in Naruto in that manner, only for the bombshell to be dropped on her that in his past life, he was apparently what the people of this world and time would call a playboy. That had hurt. The one reaction that both Hinata and Naruto were paying the most attention to was that coming from Usagi Tsukino. From what Setsuna had told them, Luna had not yet made contact with her, or if she had, it had only been a most preliminary probing of the girl, and not anything that could be termed as actual interaction between the two. However, the eyes of both shinobi noticed how Usagi instantly became more rigid and narrowed her eyes by a degree that would be undetectable to anyone not specifically trained to read body language like they had been. Even if it was only on a subconscious level, Usagi had just displayed recognition of Naruto, but also confusion about the reason for that recognition. Please introduce yourselves. The teacher stated once the hubbub had died down. I am Naruto Uzumaki, and my friend is Hinata Hyuga, Naruto stated. Friend? Hinata stuttered. Naruto grabbed her shoulder and turned her to look at him. Hinata-chan, how long have we known each other? Why, years? Hinata said unsurely. Since we were 8 if I recall correctly. Do you recall what happened the day I met you? Naruto asked. Hinata shook her head in confusion. She had been watching Naruto for so long that she couldn't remember one specific incident. I rescued you from 3 bullies. Hinata's eyes grew big and round as she instantly began recalling the specific incident he was talking about. She lunged forward and curled her arms around him, finally able to do the one thing she had desperately wanted to do ever since she could remember. Whispers broke out again at the scene they were making. However, the teacher for some reason decided to let them have their moment. Once it was over, they were told to pick some seats. Naruto picked the seat next to Usagi, which caused her to stiffen even further. Hinata, however, opted to take the seat next to a girl named Naru, who seemed to be a gossip. Later in the day, as Naruto was heading to the cafeteria to get something to eat for his lunch, someone behind him exclaimed, Oji-sama. Naruto turned around to behold the girl who could only be the reincarnation of Sailor Mercury. I am sorry. I am sorry, but I had this strange feeling that you were a prince or something, the girl mumbled out apologetically. Wow, Mercury got reincarnated as a total softie if she can barely manage to speak to me. Naruto thought. He took 3 strides to close the distance between them and gently grabbed her, lifting her face so that she was looking at him, and then proceeded to use the exact same trick that Setsuna had used on him to this girl. At first the girl struggled against the invasion, but as soon as the memories took hold, she relaxed and began returning the kiss. When they broke apart, the girl said, My lord. Welcome back, love. Naruto said. Oh god. Usagi. Mercury, or Ami as she was called in the modern era, exclaimed frantically. SHHH, she'll be alright. Setsuna is keeping watch over the situation. Setsuna-ni? Ami asked, oh dear, she didn't get reincarnated like we did she? Nope. Naruto said with a smirk. Hang on, Ami said as she frowned and concentrated. My powers, where are they? If I know, Mum, she will have gated your powers behind various tasks and tests that you have to overcome in order to get them all back. Naruto said. Of course she would, that is so like her. Ami stated with a frown. Unfortunately, only Setsuna figured out the trick to forcibly breaking those gates with the technique I used to restore your memory, and she never taught it to me. Naruto admitted. When did she teach you that? Ami asked. Well, first off, she used it to bring my memory's powers back, so I already understood the basic principle. But she also included the biological data of the species that inspired the technique in the information exchange. I sort of reverse engineered the process from there. Fascinating. Teach it to me when I get my powers back. Ami stated. Sure thing. Naruto stated. Now let's see, I have no idea where any of the other senshi are, but Venus has been making the news rather frequently. She is not being particularly subtle with what she is doing. Did you really expect someone who idolizes the Power Rangers to be capable of being subtle? Naruto asked deadpan. Wait, Power Rangers? Ami asked, isn't that a rather horrifying American rip-off of the Super Sentai franchise? Why, yes it is. Wait, are you trying to tell me there is indeed actually a universe out there which inspired the plotline for the Power Rangers TV series? Naruto said with a grimace complete with the poses, speeches and everything. Oh dear, and Usagi is the type of girl who will run with an idea if someone else is already doing it. Ami stated with a massive sweat drop forming. And her empathic powers would cause the entirety of the senshi to start doing it too. Naruto said with a grin. Now that I know it is going to happen, I can stop it from affecting me. Ami stated firmly. Good luck with that. Though I do have something in mind that will scare that entire idea out of both Usagi and Venus rather permanently. What could possibly do that to those two one-track minds? If you had ever seen two men in tight green spandex bodysuits, that leaves almost nothing to the imagination, you would never need to ask me that question in the first place. Naruto said with a shudder. Ami frowned at the mental image he just put into her mind. Thank you, I think I need to go wash my brain out with bleach now. You're welcome, dear. Naruto said as he swatted her on the butt as she walked off, earning him a little meat from her. And Naruto? Who was that? Hinata asked as she turned the corner. How long have you been standing there? Naruto asked. Since you described Guy-sensei and Lee-kun. Hinata stated. Ah. Well, that was the reincarnation of Sailor Mercury whose memories I just reawakened. Naruto stated. In the same manner as how Miss Setsuna awakened your memories? Hinata asked with an edge to her tone. I cannot possibly answer that safely. Naruto groused. Smack. How you've been being a lot bolder than you usually are ever since I reminded you of how we met, Hinata-chan. Naruto commented, not even having felt the punch beyond realizing he'd been hit. I have just realized what my priorities are. Hinata admitted. Hinata, I'm going to be straight with you. I am in love with several of the senshi. I have been for a long time. I am willing to accept you into that relationship, but you have to be willing to share. Naruto stated. Hinata hummed and walked away and thought. XXX later that night, XXXXXX jewelry Osa PXXX. And on behalf of the moon I will punish you. The voice of Usagi Tsukino exclaimed from below. Okay boys, showtime, and you are free to do anything you want as celebration for defeating the monster, but only if it is in front of the girl in the sailor outfit and the cat. A female stated. Before Usagi could so much as do or say anything else, two blurs of green slammed into the monster and began to break every bone in the monster's body in only a handful of seconds. As soon as it was blatantly obvious that the creature was beyond all hope of survival, the blurs stabilized into the form of two men, one about Usagi's age, the other looked to be in his 30s. Both were wearing skin-tight green unitards. These two men glomped each other and began intermittently declaring the other's name. As that happened, somehow Usagi had no idea how a bright sunset over an ocean manifested to serve as the backdrop to these two hugging each other. Oh god, I think I'm going to hurl, Usagi complained, clutching her stomach. Suddenly a woman in a similar outfit to Usagi stepped out of the shadows. She had long dark green hair and had her arms underneath her much larger bust than Usagi's. Sailor Pluto? What are you doing here? You're supposed to be guarding the time gates. Luna chastised. Prince Ignatius asked for my assistance on a particular problem he was having. Setsuna said rather coolly to Luna. Technically, if Luna hadn't have been put into suspended animation by Queen Serenity, the two of them would be the same age. Cats mature faster than humans, so she was able to care for the other senshi, but to Setsuna, she had only ever been viewed as a sister, and an annoyingly bossy one at that. The prince? He's awake already? How did that happen? Luna asked in horror. Why do you sound horrified by this? Setsuna asked, beginning to get pissed off with her sister. The prince was always the wrong sort of influence on the princess. Having him awake when we find her will be disastrous. Luna stated. Setsuna facepalmed, not because of what Luna's opinion of Naruto was, but because she had unknowingly just told Usagi that she didn't think it a good idea for her to associate with her brother. Now you listen here, Shisuda Baka, you and your boyfriend are not the crown regent to the Moon Kingdom. You have no say in who the princess can or can't associate with, especially when it comes to her brother. At this point in time, and as was decreed by Queen Serenity eons ago, Prince Ignatius is the sole sovereign of the Moon Kingdom. The princess was only ever meant to be the person to serve as the heart of the kingdom. At this point Usagi was getting fed up with Luna and this woman dancing around the identity of the princess. Miss, since Luna obviously doesn't know as she is searching for her, do you know who the princess is and where to find her? Setsuna smiled at Usagi. She can be a bit of an airhead, but she always asks good questions. Sailor Moon, I am the guardian of time. What do you think? Usagi gulped at the obvious implied level of power this woman just claimed to possess. The two men who had been hugging had stopped to watch the show and were sniggering at the question that Setsuna had just asked, as both men had instantly recognized Usagi from overexposure to Naruto's special jutsu that came hand in hand with living in their village. You do? Luna hissed in realization. Of course I do. But my prince has commanded me to reveal only that she is closer than you think. Now I am afraid that I have to return to Pluto. Boys, don't stay out too late, you know how grumpy Tenchi-chan gets when people enter the house after the curfew she has set. Only you, Hebe-chan and the prince have ever gotten away with it. For some reason you are almost youthful. Guy stated. Oh well, that is certainly one way of looking at why she lets us get away with it. Setsuna said with a lopsided grin. There is just no way Setsuna is discussing her sex life with these two bozos any further than what had already been said. And the less mentioned about what Naruto did to convince Konan to let him break curfew like that the better. How that thing could be accepted as a divinity by Konan, Setsuna could never figure out. Somehow Naruto and the fox came to an understanding the instant the fox figured out that by being in this new universe, it never had to become part of the Juubi. As such, the fox decided to give Naruto the ability to summon forth his chakra and control it safely. In exchange, the fox asked never to be returned to the world that it originated from. Naruto readily agreed to this arrangement, and in so doing, Naruto became insanely more powerful than he already was. Kyuubi chakra, well, there isn't a whole heck of a lot that is a match for it in a straight-up contest of brute strength. Even with the true sorceries, the senshi may not be able to stop someone protected by the Kyuubi's chakra cloak, as it is so dense that it negates practically any magic that attempts to touch it. Only other equally powerful chakra is a match for it, and according to the Kyuubi, the only thing in existence with chakra powerful enough to disrupt the Kyuubi chakra cloak is someone capable of entering Rakuto Senjutsu. Which is frankly impossible for anyone except Naruto or maybe one other person to pull off at this point, and no one in this universe except Naruto is capable of it. With a wave of goodbye to Usagi, Setsuna disappeared in a swirl of green light. Did she just teleport? Usagi asked in awe. Luna sighed and said, yes Sailor Moon, yes she did. Oh god. Naru. Usagi screamed and ran over to where her friend was on the floor unconscious. XXX Omik XXX. Good morning Tokyo. Today we have some really bizarre news to start the morning off. When people started waking up this morning, it was to the discovery that Tokyo Tower has been rather tastefully covered from base to tip in toilet paper. Whoever executed this prank was able to pull it off without alerting the night sentries on the site, the morning newscaster stated. So I guess that was what Naruto wanted with 4,000 rolls of toilet paper. Setsuna stated deadpan. You think that is something? You should have seen all the times he managed to graffiti the Hokage monument. Tenten said with a chuckle. That big carbon copy of Mount Rushmore? Setsuna asked. Yep, that's the one. Now get this, he was able to graffiti that thing at roughly 8 AM in the morning each time he did that while wearing a Kill Me Now orange tracksuit. Tenten explained. And he was able to pull that off in the middle of a ninja village. What? Are the people in your village incompetent or something? Setsuna asked. You think that is bad? You should have seen the time he replaced all the Anbu uniforms with S&M outfits. I've never laughed so hard in my life. Yugao-ni, however, decided to keep hers. Anko stated. Oh, and he was 8 at the time. Isn't Anbu HQ one of the most heavily guarded buildings in the village? Hinata asked. You got it. Guard every 10 feet. Anko admitted. It is so youthful that Naruto is still only a genin when he is probably the best shinobi out of Konoha in decades. Lee stated. Ami Mizuno stopped walking as something small, black and furry fell out of the tree she had just been passing and landed in front of her. Ami instantly thought Mao. Recognizing what had just landed in front of her on instinct. It took her only a second longer to recognize which Mao it was. Hello Luna. The cat instantaneously froze as soon as Ami said her name. Several thoughts ran through her mind, all of them centered upon the premature awakening of the prince. Eventually she sighed and asked, "You remember then? What are you, a kitten?" "Of course I remember. I would ask how, but I imagine it has something to do with the prince," Luna said acerbically. "Luna, you knew that several of us had been in relationships with the prince. Why are you so dead set against him?" Ami asked. Luna was about to reply when Usagi ran up. Ami, seeing who it was, smiled at the girl and said, "Hello Usagi." "Oh, hello, thank you for looking after my cat, I had best take her and get going," Usagi said, picking up Luna and walking away. After they were out of earshot, Ami began cackling in amusement. Wait until Naruto hears that Luna isn't planning to inform Usagi who the other senshi are until a reason shows up for her to give them access to their powers. She began walking towards the cram school she had only just yesterday succeeded in convincing her to attend their lessons. XXX Mayu Estate XXX. "So I found Mars," Naruto said. "Oh?" Setsuna asked. "Yeah, oh, and guy, if you ever hear me state that Sakura is at Sunday Raver again, open the first 3 gates and punch me as hard as you can. You got that?" Naruto commanded. Everyone other than Setsuna, who was in the room, winced in realization of how much of a tsundere someone had to be to get Naruto to declare Sakura safe from ever being called that again. Everyone that had ever met Sakura firmly believed she was the worst tsundere in existence. "Not going to kiss Mars then?" Setsuna asked. "Did you know that the first and last time I made a move on her in the Silver Millennium, I was unconscious for 3 weeks afterwards?" Naruto asked. "The girl may not do it often, but she has a massively powerful right hook." "Well, I'm not kissing her either," Setsuna said with a pout. "Why not?" Konan asked. "That girl's mood swings are way too unpredictable for anyone who isn't Sailor Venus. The two of them just seem to click for some reason," Setsuna stated. "I guess that means I am off to hunt down the mysterious vigilante known to the world as Sailor V." Setsuna smirked and said, "She lives 3 blocks away." "Wait, what?" everyone said in unison. "Yeah, color me impressed when my neighbor started up her vigilante career," Setsuna stated in an amused tone of voice. "And the costume she's wearing? That is not the standard issue senshi uniform in the solar system," Naruto stated. "Yeah, I can't figure that one out," Setsuna admitted. "When in doubt, blame the cats." "Right, who can forget the cats?" Naruto said. "I have noticed Artemis around the area a lot lately. He never seems to notice me for some reason that I can never figure out. It's not like I have been hiding from him or anything," Setsuna said. Naruto frowned and thought for a few moments before saying, What if Mother made it so Artemis and Luna can only recognize the senshi or other loyal Moon Kingdom people in one of 3 ways?" "Such as?" Setsuna asked. "First, a person can be specifically pointed out to them as being from the Moon Kingdom. But it has to be done face to face." "That makes a heck of a lot of sense," Setsuna admitted. "Second, they meet the person in their senshi or Moon Kingdom persona. So say I encounter one of them in my armor," Naruto stated. "Which means that was an awful big gamble walking around town in it the way you did when we first arrived," Setsuna said. "Meh, nothing happened. Anyways, third is by being given a facial recognition by the Mercury system at a predetermined time," Naruto stated. "Oh geez, of course, why didn't I think of that? Of course that is how the cats are finding people," Setsuna stated. "What the heck is the Mercury system?" Niji asked. "Did you see those things in school that people called computers?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, but I have had no luck figuring out how to operate one, way more advanced than a radio," Niji admitted. "Yeah, well, that is a much more simple version of what the Mercury system is," Naruto stated. "The Mercury system has more processing power than the entire human race combined and was invented by Sailor Mercury herself." XXX Crystal Institute XXX. Ami Mizuno was staring at what was on the screen in front of her in numb shock. This shock was caused by the fact that the equations and formulae on this screen were obviously someone's attempt to create a backdoor to her system, and they were using the students of this cram school to finish the process. Fuck. Well, I might as well get to work writing a hidden automatic anti-backdoor program that will disable the backdoor program the instant it tries to activate. And so Ami Mizuno set to work writing her hidden program while pretending to do the work that was being asked of the students in the Crystal Institute. "Thank you, my beloved. If it wasn't for you waking me up, I wouldn't be able to stop this disaster from happening." XXX an hour later XXX. "Miss Mizuno, we are so glad to have you as part of our seminar. As such, we would like to offer you this special disc so that you can continue your studies while you are at home," the leader of the seminar stated as she handed Ami a special disc. "Study hard, we would like you to be a role model for the other students in the seminar." "Yes, ma'am," Ami stated as she cautiously took the disc and placed it into the computer, starting it up. Almost as soon as she had done so, Ami felt nether energy trying to wash over her defenses. Unfortunately, without her powers to protect her, she had no actual defenses to protect her from the energy, and it started eating away at her conscious willpower. As such, she did not notice when the director smirked and walked away, satisfied that she had ensnared another individual. XXX I know residence XXX. Knock knock knock. Humming. The voice of Minako Aino sounded out from the living room of the house where she had been watching some television. She arrived at the door and looked through the peephole to see that there was a young man with startlingly blonde hair standing on the other side of the door. Shrugging to herself, she opened the door only to hear Artemis, who had just come down the stairs to see what was going on, issue forth a word she had never heard from the cat before. Damn it. Nice to see you too, furball. The blonde, who was wearing some rather elaborate gold plate mail armor, said to Artemis, though I am a bit curious as to why you and your girlfriend seem to despise me so much. Do I not remember stepping on your tails or something? Minako was feeling completely lost, but got the impression that this had something to do with the Moon Kingdom that Artemis was always going on about, so said the only thing that made any sense, why don't you come inside? Well, who am I to refuse a request from such a pretty lady? The blonde stated with a grin, getting a magnificent blush from Minako as he followed her into the house. Once everyone was in the living room, Naruto looked at Minako and saw the confusion that seemed to be present in her eyes and sighed. I was afraid of this. What? What do you mean? Minako asked. Simply that Artemis and Luna were never very good at the art of awakening the memories of the past life that a person has lived. As such, I am going to have to do so for you, and this is probably going to be highly embarrassing for the both of us once I am done. Naruto explained. Why do you think that? Minako asked in confusion. Better to show you rather than explain. Naruto stated as he stood up and walked over to the couch that Minako was seated on. He sat down next to her, much to the girl's confusion, and slid one arm behind her back while the other hand he used to pull her so that she was facing him. He then proceeded to give her a soul-searing kiss that very quickly began to involve tongue. Now, while Minako was a very cheerful and outgoing girl, this was effectively her first kiss. So she was a little too shocked by the suddenness of it happening to really put up too much of a fight against it, that is, until the memories flooded into her mind. That was when her eyes narrowed and she used as much physical strength as she could leverage from the position he had her in to shove him away from her. What the hell? Minako screamed as loud as she could while fighting a terrible blush. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and apologetically said, Tsunade said in absolute terms that she refused to get in between you and Mars. And since neither one of us wanted to put our lips and tongue anywhere close to Mars' face, we decided that I needed to approach you to give you your memories back, plus the info dump that would teach you how to wake Mars up, should you choose to do so. That explanation seemed to mollify Minako slightly, that is, until she pouted and said, I wouldn't have minded getting Frenched by Tsunade. Naruto and Artemis' face faltered at that information. Anyways, I downloaded the address of the temple where Mars lives, as well as the data on how to wake her up. Feel free to pay her a visit. Minako sighed and said, not till she awakens her senshi powers. What? Why not? Naruto asked. Minako and I had come to an agreement. We wouldn't interfere with Luna's operation until she gave powers to all the other senshi, Artemis began stating. So even Neptune, Saturn and Uranus. Oh, and Pluto was never reincarnated, so she has all her original powers already. Naruto asked incredulously. Artemis paused mid-thought as he considered this before saying no, just the inner senshi. Oh, well that's okay then. Mercury already knows she is a senshi. Once she shows up, so will Jupiter. And knowing Jupiter, she will corner Luna and force her powers out of the cat. Naruto said with a chuckle. Yes, she would at that. Artemis said with a sweat drop as he began to fear for his girlfriend's existence. Anyways, here is the address to the house I am staying at. You can find me there. Oh, and word to the wise Venus, quit emulating the Power Rangers or face the wrath of the green beasts of Konohagakure. Tsunade has full permission to unleash them on you at the moment. They can do the worst psychological trauma to you if you keep the Sentai antics up. Naruto warned. As soon as he said this warning, Minako actually pouted at him but nodded her head in acceptance of the threat. Naruto handed her a small card with Setsuna's home address and then saw himself out of the house. XXX the next day, XXXXXX Juban Junior High Library XXX. Excuse me, I must go study. Ami stated mechanically as she walked off away from Usagi, only for some strong arms to grab her around the waist and pull her into an embrace. Usagi could only watch and blush as the other blonde from her class grabbed Ami like that. Please let me go, I must go study. Ami stated mechanically. Yeah, I don't think so. Naruto said as he looked at one of his girlfriends critically. Oi, Usagi-chan. Why don't you go find Luna Baka and meet Ami and I in the school courtyard? This is somewhat important. How do you know Luna? And why did you call her an idiot? Usagi asked a little angrily. No time for that right now. Just do as I asked. Naruto barked, invoking all of his charismatic appeal to force the issue. Usagi gulped and ran off to do as he asked. Now my dear, why don't we go study in the courtyard? Naruto asked. Study, Ami muttered and allowed herself to be guided to the courtyard. Naruto sighed and thought to himself, this is what I get for not insisting that she get her powers straight away. XXX Juiban Junior High Courtyard XXX. Naruto looked up as Usagi and Luna arrived. Hoi, cat baka. Cough up the transformation pen or whatever you have her powers gated behind, pronto. Luna predictably screeched to a halt and stared up at the blonde who she couldn't place a name or a face to. Who are you? And how do you know about the senshi? Naruto facepalmed and said, right, well, I guess that confirms you won't recognize me unless it is blatantly obvious who I am. Both Luna and Usagi asked in confusion. Naruto stood up and moved a few feet away from the still studying Ami. He then did a deep bow and flourish that covered his entire body save for his head in a luminescent golden light. By the time the bow was over, he was decked in magnificent golden armor with red and blue accents. Oh, for the love of. It would be someone attending this school, wouldn't it? Now why do you want Mercury's transformation pen? Luna said exasperatedly. Well, in case you weren't paying attention, because I am fairly certain you weren't. Ami has been brainwashed. The only way that could even happen is if her powers have been completely sealed. Now fork it over before I fetch a stomach pump and get inventive. Naruto stated. Luna said. One of the things she easily recognized was the fact that unlike the other members of the Moon Kingdom, the prince never joked when issuing a threat. So if he said he was willing to fetch a stomach pump and get creative with it, he fully intended to do so if she didn't do as he said. Fine, as you command, my prince. Luna did a jumping backflip to summon the Mercury transformation pen. As soon as she had, Naruto picked it up and forced it into Ami's hands. Ami, listen to me. It is imperative to your studying that you repeat the following words. Mercury power, make up. Ami nodded her head and said Mercury power, make up. As soon as the last word had finished being spoken, she was encased in a pillar of blue light for a few seconds. When it cleared, she was revealed to be wearing an aqua-accented sailor senshi uniform. Naruto looked carefully at her eyes and noticed that the focus had returned to them. However, he was unprepared for Ami lunging at him and wrapping her arms around him as she planted the most heartfelt kiss she had ever had for him on the man. Thank you, Millard, thank you so much. Oh. We need to do something about the Crystal Institute, they are trying to write a backdoor to the Mercury system. Naruto smirked and pulled out a cell phone from Hammer Space, it had to be Hammer Space, and proceeded to dial a number. As soon as the other end picked up he said Hibi-chan. Would you and Tenshi-chan be so kind as to pay a visit to the Crystal Institute and dismantle that operation for me? Feel free to bring the green beasts if you feel you need the backup. The voice spoke from the other side for a moment and Naruto laughed, saying sure, I will bring some dango home with me tonight. Not a problem. He then clicked the phone shut and said taken care of, beloved. Ami smiled and kissed him again. While this entire scene was playing out, Usagi couldn't help the huge blush that was overwhelming her face. Ami noticed and said naughty Usagi-chan. Naruto-kun is off limits for you. What? Why? Usagi asked. Ami smiled at this and said in a chipper voice, as Tsunade likes to say rather often, spoilers. But. No, Usagi-chan. Ami said firmly, causing Luna to scowl at the girl. Something awfully peculiar was going on here. Why was the prince awakening girls he had previous relationships with? And why couldn't Luna recall any interactions between the prince and Sailor Moon? This was weird. Perhaps I should consult with Artemis about the situation. Have you guys heard the latest rumor? The one of the demon bus? One of the girls asked. Yeah, I heard it's the bus that runs through Senizaka. Naru stated. Demon bus? What's that? Another girl asked. How could you not know, Capo? Rio Yumino was sent flying by the fist of a small little girl with long black hair that was tied back behind her back as well as having two bows and two streamers running down the front of her face. Weirdo. The other girls could only stare in shock at the girl who had just taken out the ever-constant Yumino in a single hit. As soon as she had finished punching out Yumino, the strange girl, who for some reason refused to wear the proper school uniform, not that any of the teachers had the nerve to tell her off for it, lest they incite the girl's evil eyes, walked over and plopped herself down in front of the currently sleeping form of Usagi Tsukino. The other three girls were staring nervously at this development when the strange girl muttered out a word in a language none of them had ever heard before by Akugan. Fortunately, none of the other girls could see her face, however they did notice the subtle blue glow on the girl's index finger as she reached out and poked Usagi in the back of the head. As soon as she had done that she muttered Kai. Almost as soon as she had withdrawn her hand, Usagi woke with a start and looked around blurrily before her eyes focused on the girl sitting in front of her. Are you related to Hinata-chan? She's my older sister. "Hello, I am Hanabi." Hanabi introduced. "Oh, hello," Usagi said. "I just wanted to meet the person who was giving Setsuna-san and Naruto-sama such headaches," Hanabi said with a grin. "Huh?" Usagi said in confusion. "Oh, it's been all over Setsuna's estate. The girl called Usagi Tsukino is nothing but a big crybaby," Hanabi said with a big grin on her face. "Why you?" Usagi said with an angry flush on her face as she vaulted towards the child, when much to her surprise the kid that she had been trying to grab hold of was suddenly replaced with a log. "All praise the almighty log," Hanabi chanted out from the other side of the classroom as she clapped her hands together in supplication. "What the?" Usagi asked in confusion. Luna, from where she sat under Usagi's desk, however, crinkled her nose in irritation. She recognized that tactic. That was ninjutsu. Ninjutsu was something that she knew was practiced by the Prince of the Moon Kingdom and was rapidly realizing that wherever he had been, he had found himself in the company of other ninja and apparently he brought them back to Tokyo with him. Much to Luna's dismay, she was forced to follow as Usagi proceeded to play a game of chase with someone who was way out of the girls' league. Even if Usagi had been in her senshi form, she wasn't at the level where she was capable of matching even a partially trained ninja. Thus Luna was completely shocked when Hanabi had successfully led the irate Usagi to a meeting between a group of people that neither Luna nor Usagi had been completely expecting. Standing in front of the steps leading up to the Hikawa shrine were a group of people that included Naruto Uzumaki in full battle regalia, Ami Mizuno in full senshi regalia, Hinata Hyuga in what could only be the armor designed for a female shinobi, and what the hell? Why is that weirdo here? Usagi asked in a heated voice pointing at the guy in a tuxedo, cape, top hat and white mask. Naruto and Ami both smirked as they both knew full well exactly who the weirdo happened to be. That was why Naruto had tracked him down and told him in no uncertain terms that he could either help full-time or take a hike. The choice was entirely his. "Yes, right, shall we get today's mission underway then?" the tuxedoed man said in an uneasy tone of voice. "Oh. Don't be like that. Introduce yourself to the girl," Naruto said with a smirk. The man grimaced and said, "Tuxedo Kamen. At your service." That statement earned him a hard smack upside the head from Hinata who promptly glared at him with those unnerving eyes of hers, and she said, properly, "Chiba-kun. Naruto-kun has given me permission to punish you if you don't behave." "What does she mean, punish him?" Usagi asked heatedly. Whether she wanted to admit it or not, she was somewhat attracted to the tuxedo-wearing enigma. "Oh, one chance simply means that she will poke him in a few places and leave him a puddle of goo for a few days, with only Hibi-chan to look after him," Hanabi said cheerfully. "Which is a fate worse than death," Ami stated. She had finally gotten around to being introduced to the other people staying at Setsuna's place. Well, she could get along with Niji-kun and could tolerate Guy and Lee, so long as they kept their weird fashion sense and illusions to themselves. It had been Anko and Konan who had sent her running to Naruto for comfort. Those two were extremely bizarre and not in the good way. Konan, despite her bizarre appearance, was the easier of the two to get along with. "She can do that?" Luna asked in shock. "In case you missed it earlier, I used the same ability to poke people to wake Usagi-chan up," Hanabi said with a happy grin. Suddenly a girl walked up to where they were standing and stopped at the side of them. Naruto and Ami instantly recognized this as the reincarnation of Sailor Mars. Luna seemed to have recognized her too. The girl looked first at Usagi, which seemed to cause something to flicker before her mind. She then casually glanced over to Ami, and whatever had flickered past her mind before intensified. Then she glanced at Naruto, who was situated between Ami and Hinata. Whatever it was that she had seen when she looked at Usagi and Ami, well, those were like summer days to the freight train that slammed into her brain upon looking at Naruto. Almost instantaneously she dropped to a kneeling position and declared, "My prince." "Huh. Well, that is new. If I had known that all it would take to awaken your memories was to show up in my armor, I would have done it ages ago," Naruto admitted. My memories are fragmented. I recognize you and Sailor Mercury and whoever she is," indicating Usagi. "I get the vague impression that she is very important to the Moon Kingdom, but I have no idea why. As for the others in your company, I am sorry, but I do not recall them." "Well, except for the guy in the tuxedo, you wouldn't have had any recollection of them. As for Tuxedo Boy, don't worry about it. I wouldn't have expected you to recall him. Only my sister ever paid him any attention," Naruto admitted. "Boy." Chiba shouted out in offense. "And a pansy boy," Hanabi said coolly. Why can't I sense my powers outside of precognition?" Ray asked. "Wait, you still have access to your precognition?" Naruto asked in confusion. "It would appear so," Ray admitted. "Luna, why don't you go ahead and hand over her transformation pen?" Naruto asked. But Luna said angrily. Ray glared at the Mao and said, "Now furball." "I would do as she says, Luna," Usagi said helpfully. Luna huffed and did as asked. As soon as she had the pen, Ray said, Mars power, makeup. And was encased in a pillar of flame as she underwent her transformation. She was always the flashiest of the scouts. Naruto quipped. As soon as the flames gave way to reveal Sailor Mars in her red-trimmed Senshi uniform, Ray did a spin as she looked at herself and said much better. Now, what say we put a stop to a certain demon bus? Hanabi said cheerfully. Wait, what? Usagi asked in dismay. Oh geez, you mean to tell me you really were sleeping and thereby missed your friend's gossip? Hanabi said with a pout. A demon bus, as some are calling it, is a bus that passes through this area, picks up passengers, and then seemingly disappears with all of its passengers. Only for the bus itself to reappear the next day to pick up more passengers, but the ones from the previous day never return. Ray explained. And we are putting a stop to it. Naruto stated rather firmly. Do I have to? Usagi whined. Bop. Ouch. Usagi said while rubbing her head and glaring at Hanabi. Hurry up and transform. Hanabi said impatiently. Usagi grumbled and began the transformation on to be startled when she felt arms wrap around her just as she finished the last word and the light surrounded her. When the light cleared, she looked on in shock to see a doppelganger of herself, only with different color hair. Yay. It worked. Hanabi stated as she did a pirouette to look at herself better. Every single person present except Naruto groaned at this. Naruto, however, just realized something. In order for that to have even worked, Hanabi needed to have had a sailor crystal instead of the standard star seed that most people have. I guess I need to see about finding you your own transformation object. Naruto stated resignedly. Oh. Thank you. Hanabi stopped and then smirked at her sister Sai. Bye. Hinata ground out in fury. Naruto just facepalmed and smacked Hinata upside the head before saying, remember, there is enough of me to share. Now behave. Hinata gave Naruto a hurt look while Ray actually scowled and said, can't keep it in your pants in this lifetime, either Millard. Naruto shivered at the threatening edge to Ray's tone of voice, remind me to give you Sailor Venus's address after we are done with the mission. That statement perked Ray right up. While she might not remember everything, she definitely remembered her girlfriend. You're forgiven. XXX. A few minutes later. XXX. Jadeite thought everything was going according to plan. So far he only had encountered one Sailor Scout, that annoying Sailor Moon. But even she wasn't as much of a nuisance as the ninja who seemed to be coming out of the woodwork. Oh yes, Queen Beryl was easily able to identify what the people who were screwing up their plans actually were. She wasn't happy about it. So of course imagine Jadeite's complete and utter shock when four senshi, two of which looked like carbon copies of each other, along with an older gentleman in a tuxedo, a girl in shinobi battle armor, and a blonde and gold full-plate male, all decided to take his bus. Of course that shock wasn't even close to the level of shock he got when the blonde walked right up to him in the driver's seat and clamped his hand down on Jadeite's shoulder. Well, looky here. If it isn't my old pal Jadeite. How's Beryl the whore doing these days? Still spreading her legs for that bitch Medalia. Jadeite was fuming with anger, but it was an impotent anger. With this level of opposition I'm screwed, aren't I? You got that right, buddy. Naruto stated. Yuten. Rasengan. The large ball of molten red rock that was spinning at an absolutely obscene speed appeared in the blonde's hand. He then slammed that hand down hard into the Jadeite's chest, burning a hole straight through the body. Ami, please use the Mercury system to hack the dimensional portal that this bus has set up and pull us through. Naruto stated. Got it. Ami said after a moment's work on her system. She then had the system pull the bus through. Once on the other side, each member of the group gathered the weakened hostages into the buses and then had Ami usher them all back to their native dimension. Once back in normal space, Ray went to the shrine and phoned the paramedics. Once that was done, Naruto handed Ray the address he promised and the group departed. Ray for her part practically skipped to her soon-to-be rekindled girlfriend's house. XXX I know residence XXX. Minako opened the door and was stunned by getting glumped by a girl with long black hair. It took her a few moments to realize what was going on as she said, Mars. That you? Call me Ray. I've missed you. Ray stated. How? Minako stuttered out. I'm not entirely sure myself. But I think the combined effect of seeing Usagi, Air Sailor Moon, Ami who is Sailor Mars and the Prince all in one place like that kind of overloaded whatever mental barriers Queen Serenity put in place on me. Ray explained. So you remember everything? Minako asked unsurely. Well, no, not everything. Like since when have we had a Sailor Moon? Ray asked. Minako broke down laughing as that was apparently a joke that Naruto had decided for whatever reason not to inform the cats about. Not that she could really blame him. Come inside, love. I will send Artemis over to pester Setsuna's group while we get reacquainted. Minako stated. XXX several hours later XXX. Ray Hino just sat there in complete shock as she absorbed this information. So Usagi. Yes, that's right, she's the moon princess that Luna and Artemis have been searching for. And the prince. His name in this time is Naruto. Anyways, yeah, he's basically for some reason I cannot fathom decided that it would be hilarious to leave Luna and Artemis completely in the dark as to the identity of the moon princess. So Usagi doesn't know? Ray asked. Unfortunately not. Though according to what Ami has told the others in Setsuna's house, Usagi has a crush on her brother. Minako stated. That may not be the case anymore. Ray stated. What? Why not? Minako asked in confusion. Oh, just that I caught her taking quite frequent blushing looks at tall dark and tuxedoed. Ray confided. Minako frowned and thought before recalling something that Setsuna had once said offhandedly. Oh, well that figures. What? What is it? Ray asked. Naruto must have noticed that his sister was looking at him lustfully and so went and fetched Prince Endymion or rather his reincarnation. Minako stated. Ray scrunched up her face in thought as she recalled said prince, you mean the completely useless pretty boy who the princess had the hots for? That's the one. Minako agreed. Oh, that figures. Ray said completely deadpan. The end. Thanks for watching, also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.